Hi there, it's Hal Feldman, MiamiHal, and this is another episode of the MiamiHal Real Estate Show. Today is really about real estate and what makes real estate so important and good and dynamic. And it's really about the unique combination of people that settle into an area that sets that tone. And with me today is somebody that I've known since college, and that is Andrew Hertz. Andrew Hertz is one of those cool people that you just have to know if you're in Miami. He's got his finger on the pulse of so many things. He and his family have a deep history here. And we're going to spend some time today to learn about Andrew and what he can tell us about real estate and how he thinks things get affected by what we do around here. So Andrew, thanks so much for coming and visiting with us. It's a pleasure to have you.
I appreciate you having me on.
And we went to college outside of the state.
Yes, we did. I grew up in Miami, and I decided the first time I wanted to see snow, I went to Syracuse, New York, and spent 4 years there. Oh, it's a fantastic place to go to school. But when it starts snowing in October, I knew I was in for something.
Oh, my second year, which I believe was yours as well, it actually snowed in August, at the end of August.
And it also snowed on graduation day.
Yes.
So we had both ends of the spectrum.
So for those of you spoiled here in Miami, and I'm looking at several of you, you really have to go north to figure out what snow is all about, right?
Yes.
Anyway, you and your family have unique perspective about Miami because you've done such interesting things within the Miami community. And it kind of starts with what your father did, and then has carried through you in a very big way. So maybe a little history about
Sure.
who you are, because people are going to go, wow, this guy really has a good perspective on what's going on here.
Sure. My father was Arthur Hertz. He is a University of Miami grad, proud University of Miami grad, to the point where it is on his tombstone. He graduated from University of Miami, and his first real job was at Wameco Enterprises, and he worked for the same corporation from then until the day he died.
Wow.
And he worked as a junior accountant, worked himself up all the way to being a vice president. And when the company got sold and broken up into pieces, he and some partners got together. They bought as much as they could afford to buy. And that was Miami Seaquarium. That was the movie theaters. That was a vending operation. And, it's all part of the community. And that's the thing that he stressed to me often, and with great emphasis, is it's all about this community. We do the things that we do to make the community better, and it is our obligation to give back to the community as often as we can, wherever we can. And he learned that from Mitchell Wolfson, who the Miami-Dade downtown campus is named after. And Mitchell Wolfson was his mentor, and I heard things my entire life that Mitchell had said to my father over the years. And so now there are things that I've passed on to my children. And so when you talk about a community asset like Miami Seaquarium, when you talk about Wameco movie theaters, Wameco owned WTVJ and started the first TV station in the state of Florida. Wameco was responsible for the first cable system in the country, Wameco Home Theater in New York City. And so there was a lot of crossroads of entertainment, communications, and community all through Wameco. It became a multinational corporation. Then over the years, they sold off assets, and it became a much smaller company again. But it was one that my father gave his entire adult life to. And I'm very proud of the work he did. And I just want to make sure that I don't besmirch his good name.
Oh, you definitely are not. You're carrying it on for sure. And this is a multi-generational thing, as you just described it. Creating community through business and entertainment venues is really what's in your DNA, is it not?
Well, absolutely. Tourism is the lifeblood of Miami. It's the lifeblood of Florida. We don't, as a state, have an income tax. And so all of the taxes that we pay are property taxes. And so tourists pay 25 cents of every tax dollar that is collected as sales tax in the state of Florida. And so tourism, there's a lot of people who like to bemoan, oh, it's tourist season. Oh, there's too many tourists here. Every time you see a tourist in your local Publix, every time you see a tourist walking down Miami Beach, thank them for paying your taxes for you. because that's what they have done. And yes, there's certain times of the year that you don't go to certain areas because it's too crowded or the traffic is too much, but that's a slight inconvenience for the great financial windfall that they bring with them.
And to that end, you have actually taken part of how we bring tourism into the state. One of them that I know, and the other one I'd like you to explore a little bit, is your involvement for many years with the Orange Bowl, and then with tourism in general. If you could just explain your position there, because
absolutely. So I was, the general manager at Miami Aquarium for 15 of the 22 years I was there. I was marketing director for the other years. And through that, I became part of what's called the Florida Attractions Association, and then also through that, Visit Florida. So the Florida Attractions Association is akin to your Chamber of Commerce.
Okay.
So it is all of the attractions together, talking to each other, sharing best practices, and then using their collective voice to tell lawmakers what they need. And the Visit Florida is like the CVB, the Convention and Visitors Bureau. It is the organization that reaches outside the state to bring people into the state. And so I served as chair of both of those organizations. And through that, there's so much business that comes in. We are the number one destination in the country for Brazilians. We are the number 2 destination in the country for Germans, and and on and on and on. And it's because of outreach that is done by the Greater Miami Convention Visitors Bureau and by Visit Florida to bring people here. Orange Bowl is a lot of fun. I've enjoyed my time at Orange Bowl. I've been there for this is my 21st year being a part of Orange Bowl. I served as president of Orange Bowl 8 years ago. And Orange Bowl is like a tourist organization in and of themselves. When it started 85 years ago, it was because they needed to figure out how to get people to come south at Christmas time. And so they literally...
Wait a minute, the sun wasn't enough? The heat, the beaches weren't enough?
But transportation wasn't there.
Okay.
You had to come down by train.
Mm-hmm.
You didn't have an interstate highway system. You didn't have planes. And so they had to get people onto Flagler's Railroad and get them down here. And so getting the football teams down here, the exposure of having the football teams go back and say what a great time they had in Miami, and they kept spreading around the country, different places that had the opportunity to come down. And then obviously once you got on TV, it's a picture postcard. When it's 12 degrees in New York City and they're watching 75 degrees in Miami, you're on the next plane if you can get there. And so I've always looked at Orange Bowl as being a great tourist development organization,
which in turn becomes a great real estate development organization as well, because like you said, they come down during the winter and go, this is paradise.
Yes.
So they tend to try to move here, right?
Well, as I have said to many politicians over the year, when we're talking to them about funding for Visit Florida, is people have to get the idea to come down here on vacation. And then once they're down here on vacation, they think about, okay, job opportunities, moving, retirement, whatever the case may be. Yes, it is a real estate opportunity. The other thing that the Orange Bowl does that people may not be aware of is they are very invested in the community through youth football, through youth cheerleading. There's a girls golf initiative that they do. There's a mentoring aspect to what they do within some of the middle schools and high schools. And so there's all these opportunities. Orange Bowl over the last 10 years has invested over $8 million in renovating parks in 6 parts of the South Florida.
Wow. Okay.
Moore Park, which was the very first location of the football game, the Orange Bowl, happened in Moore Park. Moore Park got on the 75th anniversary of the Orange Bowl, got a full renovation of Moore Park. And now it's 10 years later, so we're going back and we're doing some upkeep to it. But it is a community asset in downtown Miami where if you go there at any time during the day, you will see kids playing, you will see adults exercising, you will see elderly people congregating. It is just a wonderful community asset. And it was because of the football money that was coming in for the Orange Bowl.
So originally through Dad's eyes, and now for many, many years through your eyes, you've seen a lot of change in Miami, and you've actually been a part of a lot of the positivity in that change. But let's get a little personal with this, because real estate really comes down to hyper local neighborhoods.
Yes.
And how people interact with them and either enjoy them or want to leave, right? So what about you? Where do you live? What general area are you in? And you were talking to me offline about what has changed and how you feel about that change.
Well, when I grew up in Coral Gables. I was fortunate. I knew every single one of my neighbors. We knew the people who shared the back fence with us, every fence, all up and down the blocks. And, it was a personal relationship. I live downtown Miami on Brickell Key in a condo. And I moved there 21 years ago. And the day that I moved there wasn't a Publix within miles of us. We had to travel quite a bit just to find a Winn-Dixie. Now there are 3 Publix within a mile of us. They've built Brickell City Center, which is a whole
amazing,
incredible development by Swire, Swire's responsible for Brickell Key's development. And, I've joked with my wife several times that they keep building new buildings on Brickell Key. At some point, it's going to sink. No, it's not. But they've done a good job of developing every square inch that they possibly can while keeping it livable. There's a lot of green space on Brickell Key. It's not just all big buildings, but you see the buildings first. But I don't know a single one of my neighbors. We know, I think about 3 or 4 tenants in our building total. I'd say probably a good 40% of our building is seasonal. And so there'll be, during the summer, you get a lot of the South Americans will come up, and all of a sudden the pool is full and vibrant of people, and you see a lot more activity going on. And then in the wintertime, you get a lot of the snowbirds coming down, and you get a little bit more activity by the pool again. But I know maybe 4 people that live in my building, and it feels isolating. And I don't know if that is because we're in a condo as opposed to having a front yard, a backyard, and being out there while people walk by. But it is, it takes more effort, and maybe I'm just not putting enough effort into it.
So in the 21 years you've been on Brickell Key, you've obviously seen lots of changes. You talked about actually having a place to shop within a mile, actually 3 of them. And so what do you feel? Has it gotten better or worse? And what is unique about Brickell Key that attracts a certain type of net worth or a certain nationality? What is it about Brickell Key that makes Brickell Key Brickell Key?
Well, one of the things that I really enjoy about living there is you're seemingly within a few minutes of just about everything you need to do. Your run to the airport, which my father used to say that the greatest thing about the Gables is you were right down the street from the airport, you were right down the street from Dadeland, you were right down the street from the beach. It felt central. Same thing with the highways. Obviously the traffic is the slowdown. If you hit it at the wrong time, if you're trying to get off Brickell Key when the bridge is up over the Miami River, yeah, you could hit a little slowdown. But if you've lived there long enough and you understand the timing of things, I always am tapping my watch, looking at my wife going, if we don't leave now, we might as well not leave for about 45 more minutes. And so that's just, one of the things you get used to. One of the greatest things that we've got to experience over the last few years is there's so many restaurants within a 10-minute walk of our apartment now. We used to have to drive to go find a restaurant that would be open past a certain time because it was downtown Miami. They were catering to business people.
Yeah, 5 o'clock, the sidewalks rolled up.
And then they shut down.
Yeah.
And so now it is a 24-hour community with the pros and cons that come with that.
Got it. Real estate, wherever you are, it's cyclical. So we have the patterns in the Miami suburbs, which is, hey, as soon as, or actually just before school lets out, that's the time families try to move. And so you see a lot of activity during the summer months. And then just as school's ready to go back in, anybody that's wanted to buy or sell has done most of that.
Right.
And the rest of the year tends to be sloped into a slower season. But we have had also in our history things like hurricanes and most recently a pandemic that interrupts those cycles. How do you kind of perceive the effect of these individual events long-term on Miami?
Well, the the difference between a hurricane and a pandemic is a hurricane is obviously a very local problem. For instance, when Hurricane Irma hit, my son was in pre-kindergarten, and he went, no, it was Wilma. I'm sorry, it was Wilma. He went to pre-kindergarten, and the entire conversation for him all day is, who has power? Do you have power? I have power. And, that was his conversation. So there was a lot of localized issues. With the pandemic, it has been a really interesting conglomerations of opportunities and threats at the same time. I mean, we've all done a SWOT analysis at some point, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. And when you look at the pandemic, if you were a business and you weren't looking at the opportunities the pandemic gave you, you got left behind. And so those opportunities are, how quickly can you deliver service to someone who doesn't want to come to you anymore? The companies that were able to make that jump are doing very well. I someday a book will be written as to why Zoom became our default as opposed to Skype, because Skype dropped the ball. I don't know what happened, but Zoom passed them, and no one's even talking about Skype anymore, except for me just now. And I apologize for that. So, when you look at what's happening, one of the families that we know in our building, because we would see them at the pool all the time, is a family that came down from New York. They could all of a sudden didn't have to go into Manhattan to do business, and they had this place on Brickell Key that was a seasonal thing. Well, hell, if I'm going to be stuck in my apartment, I might as well be stuck down there. Yeah, the kids can go outside and swim at the pool instead of being frozen inside the apartment. And so they came down, and it was a great opportunity for them to do things as a family that they would not have been available to them if they were not in Miami. So again, you've got to find the opportunities inside the threats. Yeah. And I think you look at the communities that are doing well, and there are some communities doing better. For better or worse, whatever you want to say about the politics of the state of Florida, Florida made it a mission to keep businesses open as best as they could. And that brought a lot of people down here. Yeah. Whether it's temporary or permanent, who's to see? But we're now the number 3 state in the country, behind Texas and California. We've passed New York, and we've got so many people leaving New York because of income tax that Florida's going to just keep growing.
So one of the things you talked about is that you have to seek out opportunity, like during the pandemic. And as a real estate agent, it was very, very difficult the first couple of months. In fact, as you'll remember, people did not want to go outside their house. So trying to show a property was nearly impossible. And it went down to a much smaller level than most people really think. As an agent, I didn't necessarily want to go out to a property, let alone the potential buyer. So there were a lot of problems. And in effect, my business froze for approximately 3 months. There was nothing, no matter what effort you put in, there was absolutely no output that could happen.
And then the avalanche happened.
And then, not because I sought it out, simply because of the differences in climate, especially being much lower interest rates, the opportunity came to those that were interested in doing real estate deals. Yep. And now it's almost unmanageable in the opposite direction. We have a strong seller's market. There is far more buyers than there are houses available. And so that's typically what I talk about here. But as we exit pandemic, I wanted to really spend the rest of our time talking about what you see as a future for Miami in the greater sense, meaning we already have an international destination. People want to come to Miami, whether it's for tourism, as you've mentioned, or to live here because they see lots of benefits. And of course, all of us who are natives here or have been here for a while can, over the long haul, have a very good opportunity to make some money in the real estate market. But you tell me about what you foresee in as early as 6 months and as far out as you want to go. Let's kind of explore that area.
Well, the interesting thing, I've been listening to a lot of economics podcasts, and I've been listening and reading things about what other people are saying the future could hold. And it's all going to depend on what different companies do. You've got companies in New York that are saying now, okay, we're going to reopen the office. if you want to earn a New York salary, you've got to live in New York and come to the office. Are they going to allow someone to say, okay, well, what do you pay me if I'm doing it remote? Or do I have to come back to the office? So that's going to be the big trade-off. A lot of companies, Facebook has already started rolling this out where, okay, you're not in Silicon Valley anymore. We're not going to pay you a Silicon Valley salary. But if you want to work and live in Montana, or you want to live and work in Miami Beach,
Do it.
here's the salary structure we'll give you. Is that acceptable? Do you still want to work for us? And so how many companies are going to give that flexibility is going to have a big effect on how many people boomerang back to the Northeast. I mean, we've survived influxes from New York and from Washington, D.C., and Lord knows Philadelphia. And so, the odd people that come in from those
Did you
locations.
say odd people from Philadelphia?
Yes, I did.
That was an underhanded, nasty dig, my friend. I'm originally from Philadelphia, for those of you that don't know it.
I say odd in the most loving way possible. I love odd people. Odd people make the world go round.
They do.
So,
They do.
But
Fellow odd person.
yeah, absolutely. I let my weird flag fly. So, how many people are going to be able to make this a full-time thing is outside of our control. We don't know. So what you could see is, there's forks in the road. And so one fork says that there are going to be more people that are going to get this opportunity, more people who are going to find their way to Florida for so many outside reasons. Again, income tax in the state that they're coming from to come to a non-income tax state, or whatever other things lead them here. If that keeps happening, I think home prices will stay pretty steady. But if all of a sudden a lot of people are having to go back to where they came from to get the salary that they feel keeps their lifestyle going, you could see a little bit of a reversal. I know a friend of mine who is looking for property on the West Coast because she wants to retire there. And every time she finds a place she wants to put a bid down on, by the time the real estate person calls her back, it's gone.
Yes.
It's just gone that fast. She can't even get in the car and drive over and look at it.
That's an unfortunately typical story these days, and even for rentals at this point, because there are many people that wanted to buy. Over 4 or 5 months of looking, they got so frustrated, they said, we're just not doing this. Let's go find a rental. So now, in a kind of a second bubble, if you will, there is a rental market shortage of housing as well. So.
Well, and one of the things when you look at the pandemic, I'm never going to say, hey, this was a good time for a pandemic. But can you imagine this pandemic hit 20 years ago? The world would have stopped, literally would have stopped. We didn't have the communication to be able to do the things.
To do the things we needed to do. So technology sets us free and allows people that always wanted to come to South Florida to come here because, again, maybe with a little less salary, they can potentially work remotely because their companies are loosening up and allowing that.
Absolutely.
Let's talk about developments that are either in place and operating now that are about to open or are future projects. For example, let's talk about the soccer stadium.
Okay.
And what's your take on that, and how does that potentially affect real estate down here?
I feel two ways about it. One is that is one of the last really big green spaces in the middle of Miami. And I've played Melreese Golf Course, not very often and not very well, but I've played it, and it is beautiful if you can get over the planes going overhead. But at the same time, I understand that there's a higher and better use for property, and it's always water seeks its own level. And so if the dollars are flowing, they're going to find a way to utilize them. They're going to find a way to develop. I understand their strategy is to develop a game day atmosphere with ancillary businesses that will fit into it to try to create like a little Wrigleyville, like what you get in Chicago, where someone goes there 3 hours before the game because there's so much to do and so much interaction to have, and maybe stays 3 hours after the game because they want to have dinner or whatever. You've seen that with soccer in Seattle. You've seen that with soccer in Portland. It creates a sense of community. I don't know if Miami has that in it, is the only problem. Miami is a drive a car everywhere market. Well, there's not enough parking in their plan to fit everyone driving a car. So now you're trying to feed people back into mass transit, which is great, or Uber or whatever.
Except that needs significant beefing up as well.
It does. And so you're going against people's inclinations. You're going against people's innate desires on how they want to handle themselves. I'm a prime example of that. I will get in my car every time and say, okay, where am I going, before I even know where I'm going, because Miami's a car market.
And Howard, give us a wide shot here. This is, an older version of the Skyline,
right?
But even this is changing significantly. We've got destination residences that are being built,
yes,
with entertainment facets built into those. What do you think about those types of projects, and how does that potentially affect the future of real estate? Not only just downtown where that's being developed, but in general, how does that kind of trickle down to the outer cities and towns?
Well, I think the livability of downtown Miami is going to take a huge step forward. It has, but again, you run into some of the same issues that we have on Brickell Key, which is a lot of the things that are being sold are seasonal. And so it's really going to make a step forward when you get full-time residents there. So having the museum park is fantastic. Having the Arch Center is fantastic. Having a greenway that connects them, what they've done with the sidewalk and all of that, connecting them is fantastic. You've got the arena there, no longer the AAA, but you got the arena there, and it can all kind of feed together. And livability is probably the best word for it. Miami downtown was never livable. It was a workplace environment. And then once work left, the people that were there overnight were not the people you wanted to walk your kids past. Well, the more people that live there, the more community, the more families that are there, the more people will want to be there, and it'll feed upon itself.
And let's touch briefly upon transportation, because the county mayor has just helped, with a number of other dignitaries, break ground on the South Corridor busway that's being changed and upgraded. We really have an issue throughout the county with traffic. And as you said before, we have the mentality, just like the Los Angeles area, of getting a car to go everywhere.
Right.
And there has to be some way to not force, but to entice a high percentage of our population to give up the car. I'm frustrated driving a car, and I would love to do that if I was going to the same destination every day. If I was going to work at a particular spot, I would find a way to ditch my car. But with real estate, I have to go to a bunch of different places and meet people, and it doesn't work. But how do we do that? And are we on the right track with upgraded bus, as opposed to spending the money on a train system or something like that, in your opinion?
Well, in my opinion, 1985 is the year you want to go back to and put your investment dollars there. I remember Metro Rail had the Metro fail as before it even started, because it's too limited and it doesn't feed off of that one line. You look at places that have a vibrant rapid transit system, Atlanta, DC, Chicago, Boston, New York. It is old, it is built in, it is part of the system. To try to build a brand new system now is going to be a huge investment, and it's going to take more than one mayor can handle. You're going to have a county commission and a mayor that is willing to say, this is a 20-year project. I can't use this as a victory.
Me as a politician.
I can't use this on my victory tour for my next reelection.
So as transportation may be a 20-year project, the good news, and this is again how smart of a person you are and businessman, you have a current business that you're really spending a lot of time with. As we all sit in cars, how are they seeing you, Andrew Hertz, in our community?
My company is Dade Media. We have a billboard company. We have billboards on I-95. We'll have new ones on the Palmetto. And, as my business partner likes to tell me all the time, traffic is our best friend, our best customer. One of the things that people don't understand, how pandemic has affected traffic in Miami, and I'm sure it's affected in a lot of other places. The number of cars on the road today is greater than the number of cars there were on the road 2 years ago, same time.
Wow.
And that is because the pandemic has made us less willing to share our indoor space with people we don't know. So less people are riding long-term busing like on I-95. They'd rather drive and pay for parking than risk their health. So the car counts are up, but the passenger counts are down. People aren't even carpooling at the same rates as they used to. And so, we need to find a way to figure out how we're all in this together and work together. But, as you're in traffic, make sure you look off to the right or off to the left.
Until then, and support Andrew Hertz in his endeavors.
I am not the biggest fish. Out Front and Clear Channel are the big fish. I'm in there with them.
Well, listen, I want to be on your billboard. We'll talk about that after the show. And to everybody out there, Andrew Hertz has given us a little peek into his vision of what Miami was, what it is now, and what it hopefully will be in the future. I appreciate your time. And until next week, I am here to help you with your real estate dreams.